And yeah, I heard your say we're recording. Okay, I'm going to start that over. That little section. So, purpose of our call, or this every week, it's for us. It's for agents. It's for our industry to share the best practices, things that are challenges. Could be client related, unclient related, business process related. Any and all is there. 100% voluntary attendance. No requirements. No need to check in. It's cool. We've had some people say, hey, I can't make it. That's nice. Lets us know that they definitely want to be here. It just doesn't work with their schedule. Awesome. Love it. But attendance is not required. Per Vince is telling me to record. We are going to start recording these. So anybody that's on the email distribution, we'll send this out each week afterwards so that people can go back and watch. So now, Vince, was there any other, there's a couple other housekeeping items that I know that you have.
Just real quick. So we'd really like it, for this hour that we're doing this, that people can, have their camera on. We'd prefer that we're not multitasking. It just keeps everyone kind of committed. I like putting faces with names. So when we cross bridges down the road, it's great to do. And then at the bottom of your screen, if you have a question or you want to comment on something, the bottom of your screen, there's a reaction key. Go ahead and raise your hand and we'll unmute you or call on you as we're going along. But we really like this to be kind of open conversation and kind of get people's feedback so that we can do best practices and things like that. And I don't know if Brad talked about it a little bit, but the way this came about is we're part of a very large mastermind group. I think yesterday there was over 700 agents in the mastermind. And it's a great opportunity to learn from some of our top agents, but at the same time, it's really hard for, little people like us. I hate to say little people, but, we're talking to people that are producing $100 million a year. It's hard for us to say, hey, what about this? So a smaller group gives us a little more opportunity to talk about different things. So we'll get started this week. Last week, we didn't get to the CRM challenges. And I feel like, everyone uses different CRMs and there's different challenges that we all have. Maybe managing the client flow, maybe managing, if they're a cold lead, how we get them over to, a hot lead, or how long we manage those. So like to talk about what everyone does a little bit differently. And then do individuals use drip campaigns, or are they, sending out newsletters through their CRM? How's everyone using their CRM? And I'll start with us. Brad and I have developed a system that if someone is a sphere of influence, how many times do we touch base with them? And then we have a drip campaign set up for those individuals. And that drip campaign with our CRM tells us, hey, Vince, it's day 180. You need to call Brad Brewer today and, just check in. Just be like, hey, Brad, how's it going? Haven't talked to you in a while. How's the family? It's always good to have those conversations, not necessarily real estate related, but, personal, hey, how, heard you sold your house, gonna be moving to Florida. When's that happening? If it was his choice, it'd be in 2 years. If it was his wife's choice, it'd been 6 months ago. So what's everyone using for CRMs? How's it, what's some of the challenges you guys are having with your CRM platforms? I know Brad loves them.
I've been running Boomtown for almost the last year. The only challenge that I've had with them is because I'm on their base plan. I don't have any customization of their drips.
Okay. Is that a cost thing for you?
Yeah, right now it's a cost thing. My contract is up in December. I'll probably just bump up to the next level and get that. There's a lot more automation that I can do with it.
Yeah, and that's good to know. I mean, Boomtown is definitely one, we've talked about. Do you have the ability to do video messaging through it and things like that?
Yeah, there's a BombBomb integration with it.
Yep. Okay.
So Stephen, one of the things we've talked about this. One of the things I think you want to look at too is if you're going to upgrade, that's just a great time to say, is this the CRM that best fits my business?
Yeah.
And with it that time of year where you're going to be doing your business planning for next year anyway, what is one of the things you're looking at when you're doing a business plan is your operations and your systems, right? So
Yeah.
I would encourage you to definitely take a look to say, and I'm not, and this is definitely not a steer one way or the other, because those of you that are obviously familiar with Tom Ferry coaching, is what's the best CRM is the one that will work best for you. But it's a great time of year to take a look, like, does this one fit the direction that I'm taking my business?
Mhm.
And that does include from a cost and budget. And though I know Boomtown's considered one of the Cadillacs of CRMs, it's expensive.
It
It's
is.
really expensive. So,
Yeah,
but
and
go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say, Steven, to your point, customizing those drip campaigns, I find that I get a better response when I'm able to customize some of those messages and shorten up like either a text message or an email, because, let's be honest, if you get a 3-sentence text message from somebody, you're probably not gonna pay that close attention to it. You're gonna think it's junk, they're trying to just get me to buy something. But if it's how's the home search going, or are you still thinking of buying, instead of, have you looked at these properties? This is a great location and a great price, whatever it might be. I feel like drip campaigns work best when you can customize them and, make them a little more unique to you or your area, or, even your clients a little bit.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. In fact, I've even gotten some of the pre-canned like text messages that they do that have gotten flagged as spam just because of the way they're worded.
Yeah.
Yeah. You definitely got to watch the wording and how they come across, because they can be, unfortunately, they hit spam. Or does the thumbnail show if it sends text, or is it sending a link? Because I know when I get links sent via text message, I'm afraid to click on them, because that's how spam is sent.
Oh yeah,
viruses and things like that. So I prefer the method that sends the thumbnails, but you can't always control that with the system.
I don't think BombBomb sends thumbnails through text message. I think it's only the link. In the email, it sends the full thumbnail.
So here's a question: what do you guys think is the most? And this would be sharing in your opinion. I'll share mine first. As far as all the different capabilities from a CRM, you've got client retention, transaction management. There's different marketing aspects, just the campaigns. There's so many different uses you can have on a CRM. What is your most underutilized of your CRM?
I'll say on my CRM, the most underutilized piece that I really would like to leverage is the task management, because I can assign, and it comes from some of the auto plans. I use Brevity, for those who don't know, which is very similar to Follow Up Boss. It has a very similar look and feel. So it has the auto plans where I can have tasks and things automated, and I can set manual tasks too. I can create my own tasks for myself. I can assign tasks to my assistant. I can have tasks assigned to specific for transactions. So I have like transaction auto plans. I have client auto plans, and I really am, and actually through this new calendar process, I'm trying to train myself to be more automated and going into my CRM and looking at those tasks and working those. But that's something that I underutilize for sure.
Anybody else have something different?
Well, I'm just starting I'm on Follow Up Boss, and so I'm really not using it yet. But the automations is what I'm looking to start. And with my TC that I just hired coming on, I'm looking to get a lot of that set in place and flowing. So
just for a little bit of a terminology, basically campaigns are the same thing as what Follow Boss calls automations. Task management or action plans are the steps and procedures. And you guys are very common. If different people I talk to, it's always that. And I think the reason is because and I think it's learning how to do it. And I struggled with this for years. Like I wouldn't set up campaign after campaign because they're like, well, I was looking for the perfect thing that was set up for every single step of the process. Like 100% automation. That's completely unrealistic. You need a base amount of the automation stuff, but then you also have to treat some of your action steps as that. They're action steps, but then the communication is specific to each client. And then you'll, as you just get something built and in place, and then that's where we talk about, as I know some of you guys are, we've had this conversation about that business intelligence stuff that you got from Summit this year. Well, that's overseeing and then working on your business and going back in and be like, oh, this is missing. And how do we do that? Well, we just work our transactions, we work our processes through. And as you see what's missing, make that notation, get it in your calendar, as you're talking about schedules, and get that added. That's the only way you're going to build it. Because if you try and do it all at once, it's really hard. A smart person told me very wisely, and it's that I was well, quite frankly, I was shitty at doing it. Again, this is PG-13, so just be careful. I just wanted to get everything done and get it done perfectly, and it's not realistic. Just get it going, get it out there. If something gets sent accidentally to a client that sounds a little silly or stupid, and you catch it, or you get a message like, "What's this?" back, like, "Oh, sorry, I was making some enhancements to my system, and you got that inadvertently." If I got that from somebody, I'd be like, "Oh, well, that's cool. They're working on their systems and processes." That would be normal. Anybody has a job would understand that that's normal. So I think we got to stop being afraid to have everything so perfect and we're using our clients as trial and error anyway. You might as well, if a message goes out, if the wrong message goes out to them, then well, welcome to trial and error. So, but by the way, one thing we've got to mention, I'm gonna go back to real quick before I forget. These topics, so Vince and I are coming up with the weekly topics right now. We are basically coming up with them based on things we're going through or other agents like you guys that we talk to that, wow, this is a topic that we need to discuss. We are always trying to just be the facilitators of these conversations. We may present some stuff like we're going to today with open houses, but again, well, you can throw it in the chat and we'll take notes down before we get off. You guys can email us separately and say, hey, I'd love to have this as a future topic. We may come back to you, be prepared to say, hey, we're not going to ask you to present, but we may ask you to participate as a facilitator of that conversation. So, all right. So drip campaigns. What else we got on CRM? Anything, Vince, on CRM or anything else anyone wants to talk about?
And I think for us, one of our challenges right now, and Brad could probably talk, admits this as well, but it's knowing when to take somebody from, maybe they were a hot lead and you just haven't, lost communication with them. At what point in time do we change them from a hot lead to just someone that gets a communication once every month, and so otherwise what I can vouch for is your active leads, your quote unquote ones that might be active. It then becomes a lot. All of a sudden when you're talking about tasks and reminders, you get a notification to call, Stephen Duffy, and Stephen hasn't talked to you in 6 months. He's, not checked any of the emails, not replied to text, not answered a call. Well, he's no longer probably a hot lead. He's probably just, someone you should, a fear, or maybe he's even someone that you archive at some point in time. But, I think for really working your CRM, especially if you're just starting up, and one is making sure everyone's classified correctly and there's a system in place to, know when to move them from stages to stages. And that's something Brad and I are working on to kind of perfect, because once again, it's a work in progress. We're starting with one level and then getting all those people changed and going to the next level. But I think that's another one of our biggest challenges with our CRM is knowing when to move people from different, statuses through the CRM. So yeah, no, that was the last thing I had.
Yeah, and if you're going to, and anybody, whether you're going to build a team of agents or your future growth, your team is considered to be you as the only producer, but you've got several support. Well, they're gonna need to know that too. So, and it will change a little bit depending on the CRM, but yeah, I'm working on it right now. We've been working on it last week a little bit. The two of us is we're making the definitions like, what is the classification? Are there any, a lot of them use tags or hashtags. What hashtags need to be assigned? And then we're going through and saying, all right, what of the auto campaigns belongs to this hashtag or this classification of a client? And we're going to go back through, which I know Vince doesn't want to do this to the full degree, but we need to go back through every single person. If they're in your CRM, they need to be appropriately classified and the appropriate hashtags or tags or whatever it is that are assigned. So
Is that a red task, Vince?
Yeah, that's a red tag. Matter of fact, last week we just talked about getting a virtual assistant for this reason.
exactly. Go ahead, Janice.
Is there a good timeline or base process for creating automations or drip campaigns that you guys use?
Can you
Go ahead.
Can you elaborate a little bit? What do you mean? Is there a
I've not created one before.
Right.
So I'm just kind of thinking, is there like a base timeline that you can go off of to, like, somebody could have to go off of to say, okay, this is where I should start. And then as it evolves, I can add to it.
So if you're creating a drip campaign from the start, I like to, in each of the drip campaigns for the first 14 days, and this has been a kind of a conversation Brad and I've gone back and forth that how often do you give them communication until you just stop or you slow it down? I think it's about 10 to 14 days they're getting a text and an email in the from the drip campaign, because not all the time you're going to have somebody's phone number, not all the time you're going to have their correct email. So you don't know, you want the drip campaign to run automatically. So if you have one of each, yeah, they're getting a little bombarded, but a lot of those, a lot of people that we get through PPCs or Facebook, whatever it might be, we don't get the accurate information from those that automatically get set up for a drip campaign. Does that make sense? So I like to say that they're, and they're getting phone calls, first day, maybe the third day, depending on at what point in time you connect with them. I think you just got to tweak it. I'd say on a weekly basis, we're tweaking our drip campaigns. I'll go through and I'll find something I don't like, or, one of the things I added to my drip campaign just last week was, and I know Steven said he uses BombBomb. My drip campaign has an introductory video of myself. And it goes out with, hey, saw you're looking at a home on our website. Love to help you out. Here's a little introductory video of myself. So now the nice thing about it, especially when it's on a text message, I don't know if they actually looked at that text message, but I can see if they opened that core video. Well, now I know that I have the right phone number for them. So now I have a second verifier per se, and it gives us a little more of an advantage. Otherwise, if you're just trying to call them, they could just send you the voicemail, or voicemail's not set up, or it just says, hi, you've reached 262-900 something, right? If they've looked at that video, I now have an extra grasp on that person. So I think drip campaigns, you just got to start, 21 days or 14 days and say, okay, I'm going to commit to this and this, and then we're going to build it out. And then, depending on how long you want to nurture them, if it's a year, like we do what's called property boost. So it's advertising properties on Facebook, and we get leads through that. I think our drip campaign for them is set up for 180 days. So I think it just all varies. That answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
One quick note before you go, Stephen, on that too is, this might have been said just in case. Most CRMs, I know Follow Us has them for the action items and the automations, have templates, and it'll have the timelines in that you were kind of asking about. And then where Vince is saying, we just start working those, and we start with any template that's available. Especially you guys around here from the Tom Ferry world, R&D, rip off and duplicate, right? So anything I can find that's pre-existing, and then there's some that I've used almost exactly with little alterations. There's campaigns, actions. I've basically should have started from scratch because I end up ripping it apart anyway. And then a good way to do it is if you start making edits is if you got a whiteboard in your office or just take a white piece of paper, hand write out the process and go back and input it digitally later. Can save you a lot of time. Hey,
Steve,
Steve.
Oh, does anybody CRM actually use like a two-factor authenticating? Can't say it. Two-factor identifier authentication. There we go.
so our CRM with KV Core, it does. And when it shows up, like if I click on one of my leads, it will, I'm trying to pull one up, just give you an exact. Let me find one that I know is done. But it'll give it like a little like gold shield next to their phone number and email to tell us that it's been authenticated.
Okay, but it's not like they send a text message out to them so they can get access type thing.
No,
Okay. So it's just verified through like People Finder or whatever software they're using to.
yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Any other thing on CRM before we move on to our next topic? Excellent. Okay. Anything else that comes up on CRMs? Like I said, shoot out a message. Maybe we'll have a follow-up discussion on it. I'm sure we will at some point for sure. All right. Agenda item number 2, maximizing open houses. We should call this section, hey, it's nice that we can actually have open houses, right? For some of you. So let's revisit some of the things. I'm going to share some things. I'd love to hear from you guys. Here's a kind of a list of things to maximize your attendance, leads, everything from open houses. 1.
Well, hey, Brad, let's ask this question. How many of you are still doing open houses, or has the market been busy enough for you that you didn't have to do open houses?
I'm doing open houses.
Yeah,
I do them about twice a month.
okay,
Nice.
I literally just put them back in my calendar yesterday.
yeah.
Just started doing them.
And I think with the, current, status of the economy and how quickly houses are going, I mean, you're getting offers on homes on a house that's listed on Tuesday, again, accepted offers by Friday, and you just don't have time to do, it's not available. So I think that's why this topic is a great one to kind of start revisiting. So I think it's starting to get to where we really need to utilize it as a great marketing tool for your sellers and for you to capture clients.
It's a
So,
powerful.
sorry, Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. It's a powerful lead source. I mean, it's one of those that for years when I was doing them regularly, I would walk away at least every open house with at least one, if not multiple leads. But you can't do it unless you get people through the door. So here's some things that we do with open houses. I'm going to do this one more thing before I forget. By the way, and we'll remind people in the future when you come on, because we've obviously invited agents from across the country, and we'll remind people when they start talking. Talk about what market you're in. Obviously your name's on the screen, but your name and then what market you're in. So I'm going to do it for you guys today. Valerie, you're in Sacramento, California, right? Sacramento, California area. Steven's out in Phoenix, Arizona area. So, and of course, Vincent and I in Burlington, Wisconsin area. So it was today. And Janice, I don't know if she had a meeting, but if she was on today, I can't remember. I think she's in Central Ohio. Don't shoot me, Janice, if I missed where you're at in Ohio. So anyway, back to open houses. So 1, sending open house invitations to the neighbors. This can be done a different way. You could walk the neighborhood, knock on doors, which is another thing I have on here, which is kind of a form of circle dialing. You can do it all at once. Or you can also, if you're going to get ready to send your just listed postcards out to the neighbors, go ahead, make it a just listed, and here's the open house invitation. So there's one thing. I've done anywhere from an hour and a half to 3-hour open houses. I do like the 3-hour ones are nice so that you could do 1 hour of just neighbors, have the sellers stay home for that first hour. You kind of present it as a say goodbye to your neighbors. I know that was probably more predominant in 1950 when we actually talked to our neighbors and knew our neighbors better. But there are those neighborhoods and those subdivisions where people really, have that nice sense of community and block parties, all that fun stuff. So those are one of the things. Once you get those invitations out, another area is door knocking, like I mentioned, go out and door knock. Say, as a follow-up, not just all at once, but knock over, hey, just wanted to see if you got the postcard. We got the open house coming up. Asking that question. You guys can share yours, but one of my favorite ones is I always ask, well, first and foremost, why are we sending? I'm not gonna let you guys answer this. I'll answer it because I already know you know the answer. Why are we inviting the neighbors to the open house? They already live there, right? I've got that question from people. Well, because they know somebody that probably wants to live in the neighborhood, their friends, their family, their colleagues, people they go to church with, people they don't even like that have been to their house. They may know somebody that says, oh my goodness, I love your neighborhood. I would love to live here. That's what we're trying to trigger, right? So those are some of the different ways to market. I'm trying to grab some of our marketing stuff.
Well, and Brad, I'm gonna cut in a little bit. The other thing I like to do with door knocking when you do the neighborhood is, knock on the door and apologize for the traffic you're gonna bring on Saturday. Be like, hey, I'm Vince with Eagle Homes. Just want to let you know, not sure if you saw a postcard and having an open house next door. I want to apologize for all the traffic that's gonna be on your street from 11 to 1 on Saturday. But also want to bring you this bottle of wine, just as a quick little apology and thank you for letting me do this week. So it kind of does a couple things, right? It's like, holy cow, he's sincere about maybe drawing a lot of traffic on my 1.5 car street, or it also gives you an opportunity to get your name, your face in front of somebody that is going to see your sign. And the idea is to get referral business from it. So a small gift, if you buy a $7 bottle of wine, buy 5 or 6 of them. You don't do it for the whole block, but just the 2 or 3 that are directly around the east side of the house. It's kind of a cool way to say thank you and get your name and face in front of somebody. So just my little tip going off your little door knocking thing.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is just do that bottle of wine for maybe the close proximity neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what your budgets are, but mine's not to send out 100 bottles of wine. So unless you're getting the $2 bottle of wine, maybe. So
I guess it depends on the neighborhood too, because you get into some of these $1 million neighborhoods, that $7 bottle might not.
yeah, that could actually offend me, right?
Good point, Valerie.
You want me to drink this water?
The swill.
That's awesome. Obviously, then there's digital marketing that you do. I think a lot of us are pretty good at advertising on Facebook. That's a great time. Like, I'm not a big poster. I know there's agents in the area that I do it occasionally that post to like the buy sell trades when they list a property. The open houses is usually what I'll do. I don't list it. I usually do the open houses because you really want to start to draw that traffic in, and then we get to time also prepping. I know you guys have heard Tom say this for those that in the Tom Fair world, but like he talked about putting like 25 to 30 open house signs out like days before. That's a lot of open house signs. I get it, but getting as many out as you can. If it's 2, it's 2. If it's 5, 10, if you've got a lot of open house signs, getting them out on those major streets and corners are a great thing. Now, once we get there, sign in early, or not sign in early, get there early. Lights are on. Make sure, anything the seller might have missed that should be maybe put away, stick it in a closet or something for now. Don't forget to take it back out in case they come home and be like, where's this at? So just kind of take a little log of what you moved, if you move anything. A lot of times too, I'll even tell the seller, hey, I moved this, just want to make sure it's out of the way in case I do forget. Your sign-ins. I don't know how you guys handle your sign-ins. One thing that's nice about KV Core, I don't know if it's KV Core EXP, to be honest with you. We can do our sign-ins on our iPad. It looks nice. It looks professional. We can just hand the iPad, hey, sign in. That comes to like questions that are on there. Name, phone number, email address is what you're trying to at least capture. I've seen some that are a little bit further in depth. Literally, it kind of goes into a little bit of a buyer questionnaire. I want to try and do that more personally myself, but I think they work. So whatever you guys like. And then all mine, whether it's been in print, handwritten, or the digital ones. And I'm going to let Vince ask his question because I really liked it. has the question, are you working with the agent, and ask for the agent's name. Vince, I'll pause because I liked how you skipped the question of, are you working with the, unmute yourself. What's your question? It goes, skips right to it.
Yeah, you kind of just said it, you start off with just asking them, are you working with an agent and what their name is? You just flat out get straight to, oh, who's the agent that you're working with? And they're gonna, if you ask them, are you working with the agent, that gives them a chance to say yes or no, and then gives them a chance to think about it, and come up with a name. If you go straight to, who are you working with currently? They're gonna be like, nobody. Right? So it's a quicker way to put them on the spot. You want to make sure we're, leading with open-ended questions so we can avoid the yes and no's. We get to the yes and no's, then it's just a great way to deflect during the conversation. So, yeah.
I did like that. Now our digital sign-in asks, are you working with an agent? It does ask you to give the agent's name, so you can ask the question, but I just kind of like that if you did it verbally, instead of just asking if they have an agent. I love that. Like, hey, who's your agent? It's kind of just being something. Let them say, oh, I don't have one.
I have a hot tip too. If you do a sign-in sheet,
Yep.
like a paper one, I will usually fill one out with like a pretend person to give people, it's like putting tip money in the tip jar. And I always have a field for, I have space for their address. And people, if the field is there, they fill it out. So more times than not, I'll get their address too.
I have the same person I sign in every single time. I do the same thing. Karen Brewer, it's my mother. She's been,
She
except
goes
I
to
use
every
her-
open house.
except I use her maiden name, which is Bogart. So I use Karen Bogart. So she's attended every single one of my open houses. God bless her. Whether she knows it or not.
If she doesn't have an agent.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Then a couple of things, we'll let you guys chime with additionals. Of course, we utilize, back to a little bit of marketing I missed, was utilizing flyers, QR codes, getting clever with the QR codes is nice. But then once the clients get there, having that script ready. And don't focus so much on these crazy canned questions that every agent's doing. Just think in forms of this. Be curious. Just ask curiosity questions. Start with what brings you here today? One of my favorite ones to open houses is, are you looking for you, or are you here on behalf of somebody? Like, I know people who I'll come in like, oh, are you looking to buy something? No, I'm looking for my mom. She's just out of town, or whoever. Are you looking for yourself? Are you just curious? Are you in the neighborhood? If they say, yes, we're looking, where are you coming from? Where are you at now? All the different questions about them. Then you can kind of get into things like, how have you been looking? That's another way to find out if they've worked with an agent, by the way, if they don't fill it out. What methods have you been using to search so far? If they don't know how to answer that, give them a couple clues. Are you just looking online? Do you have a search set up? How are you looking, right? Using just different things there. And then after that, I always like to have a reason to follow up. Okay. Kind of letting them know that you plan to follow up. That's usually part of my script. Thank you so much for coming today. I know we didn't have a great time to talk. I would love to learn more about what you're looking for. I'll give you a call later this week just to check in to see also if you had any other questions about the house that come up after today. Of course, I'm going to immediately ask them some feedback about the house. So those are typically some of my normal questions, but I really want to start asking not so much about the house, because they're going to tell you, oh, we love the place, whatever. A lot of people will volunteer the positive feedback. I'm asking for feedback in order to say, kind of maybe looking for if there's interest, but also they're going to give you the negative if you ask. But then I'm looking for those reasons to follow up. And then how do you follow up? You follow up the next day, start using drip campaigns, phone calls. Not all this stuff can be canned. It's got to be specific to potentially that client. And then my last thing Vince put on here, and I'm not going to read it how he's got to type. Well, he's got clean the F up after yourself. I think that was his very blunt way of saying, if you did move some stuff, try to move it back, but walk around it. If you had sodas that you were giving away, waters, whatever, just go around and pick up after those buyers that came through. Make sure that when the sellers return home, because they are still living there in many cases, make sure that home looks the way it is when you came in. So just little things like that, because that's a service thing that comes back to your client. So those are just some of the things we do. I don't know if that was all encompassing, but that's a good way to not only drive traffic there, good questions to ask while they're there, get that rapport built, and have good ways to follow up after. That's how you get deals.
So I have a couple questions for the group based on some of that stuff. How many of you put out like either snacks or bottles of water or soda at all of your open houses? Yeah. Val, no. Janice, no. I'm more curious. It's kind of one of those, I think.
They're on their own.
Pardon me?
They're on their own.
So
They get me.
Stephen, let me ask, what do you put out? Is it just bottled water? Do you do like some snacks?
Depends. For the most part, yeah, it's usually just bottles of water, maybe some store-bought cookies, or if my wife's feeling like she wants to bake, I'll have her make chocolate chip cookies.
Okay.
Other than that, I tried doing like a mega open house on a listing that I had and put out like soda and beer and all of that for kind of the neighborhood to come to, but didn't have a huge turnout, maybe had 10 groups through, if even.
So
Yeah.
Steven, you said the words mega open house. Define that for me.
Open house that you turn into an event.
Hence the beer.
Yeah, exactly. It was a Friday afternoon. I needed one more than they did. So
So you guys, so a lot of us don't put out. I'm the same way. I've never really been one to do a lot of the food and beverage and stuff like that. When do you?
Like on the mega open house, I'll do it if it's my own listings. I'll have enough time to prepare for it. If it's somebody else's listing, I think bottled water is good just to have, so you have something to offer.
Yeah, I agree with you there,
Good
Steve.
host.
I think even if you just did like the little bottles of water, right? Not the big 16.9, but just a little 8-10 ounce bottle of water. For me, I think it's also a place for them to stop and potentially interact with you a little bit. You know, besides the front door, they may mingle over by the bottled water and have it in different parts of the house. So I was curious because not everybody does it. You know, it's just that. Yeah, so I kind of answered my question. It's kind of a hit or miss thing, but I think, you know, it's one of those things that the more you can offer, the better it looks for you, right? Like you said, you're trying to do the beer and soda mega open house, and you know you didn't have a lot of traffic. Those 10 groups that came through probably thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Unless they were your close friends, then that doesn't count.
They still thought it was cool. Free
Yeah.
beer. I have done, depending on like where the house is and how busy I think it's gonna be, I've done coloring sheets and crayons for kids that are like branded and seasonal. I have done water and snacks in the past. It's just such a hassle for me that I usually don't put the effort in for that because I'm doing so many other, like I'm more focused on door knocking and flyering and other things that's where I'm just trying to get people in. But I like the idea of having, giving people freedom to spend time in the home if their kids are engaged doing something.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea because, right, I think those that are parents know that if their kids are engaged and busy, they'll spend more time there, right? I mean, that's why, you know, stores put little playgrounds, in the store somewhere, or, so yeah, so I think that's a really good idea. I like that. What about open house signs? I've seen where people put out, on a street corner, 5 or 6 open house signs, and I've also seen it where, there's one sign that's pointed in a direction and that's all you see. And you're like, as a consumer, I drive by and go, I think that's an open house. Where's it going? You know, so how many of you guys use multiple multiple open house signs and, you know, maybe give a direction or, you know, do you put out the open house sign in the yard the day before or the morning of with the time on it? You know, what's some of your practices there?
I usually put out 10 signs. Kind of
Really?
just easy is at basically every corner, so it guides them all the way in. And I got a big 10-foot open house flag that I put in the front yard.
You also have to be careful not to pass out from the heat when you're picking up your signs in August.
True story. That's why we haven't done this this summer.
Yeah. I have 10 signs as well. I just had mine redone with my headshot and I put a QR code on them. So each time I do an open house, I change the QR code link to the open house where I'm holding it.
What company are you using for that? Is it like Flow Code or?
I use the one that's owned by Bitly,
Okay.
the QR code generator.
Okay.
So here's a question I have for you guys on open houses. What do you have at the open houses for takeaways for people that come? Anything they can take home with them?
Yeah.
Property
So
flyer?
What?
Oh, go ahead.
Property flyer?
Yeah.
Okay, Valerie?
So I do a whole bunch of things. So I have a resume. I do a list of other homes that are similar to the property I'm showing, and I staple my business card to that. I have the property flyer and I have a HomeBot flyer.
Awesome.
And the HomeBot flyer has a QR code on it, so they could just scan and sign up for my HomeBot.
Is the HomeBot flyer for that property?
No, it's so that they could sign up for themselves and get their
Okay.
own.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a great way to then attract other buyers. What's something that you could leave or give to people that attend that could be potential sellers? And I'm just to give a clue, I'm talking about one of the people you keep inviting is who? The neighbors.
Well, that's for the
Granted-
HomeBot. The HomeBot is for sellers.
Okay, so the HomeBot's for sellers. Other thing you can do is, I used to do this as part of the invitation when I would circle dial a neighborhood or do the door knock. I tell them I'm gonna have a limited number of basically market analysis for the neighborhood, in case they were curious what their home's worth. Why do you think I said limited number?
So they get there fast.
Get there fast.
Exclusivity.
Exclusivity, but also, how many think I'm making?
1.
2. 3, maybe tops. Because when they get there and those 1, 2, or 3 are gone, now I've asked them to sign in, but not everybody will sign in. So, oh, I'm sorry, I'm out. They went quick. Happy to give you one. I can definitely send you one. Make sure when you do the sign in, make sure I have your email address. I'll send them over to you. And then there's script questions. Is there something you're looking at doing, or are you just trying to look to use your equity to do some improvements, make some money? You know, you could follow it up with a number of different questions to potentially find someone that's a future client from the sales side.
And so Valerie, quick question for you. When you do all that packet per se, are you putting it into like a branded folder, or is it just all stapled together? Or are they individual?
So I have like a flyer display stand. So
Okay.
it's stacked. And then I do a property binder where I have like the tax record and details about the home and everything in a binder laid out so they can see that. And then I have my business cards in a holder and just kind of a display on the counter. So
Okay.
not everybody takes everything. If somebody's talking to me, I'll just kind of grab one of everything and hand it to them. If they're talking about that they've been looking around for homes or whatever, I'll grab the sheet that has the similar properties and I'll say, well, I've prepared this and, you know, I'm done here at 3 o'clock. So I'd be happy to set up any showings for, you know, any of these properties. So let me know which ones you'd like to see.
Yeah. I like the list of properties. I think that's a really cool idea and definitely drives a different part of the conversation. If that one doesn't work for them, you're there to help them with one that might, right? If they go, oh, you know what, the master bedroom's too small. Well, here's a list of 10 others in the neighborhood or whatever. How many do you usually put on there? 5, 6? What's your?
I just do like a mile radius.
Okay.
So there's usually between 6 and 8 homes, and I do like a 50,000 swing on either side of the price.
Okay. So the current price. Cool.
Okay. All right. Anything else on open houses? Otherwise, we're gonna move on to the next topic. Okay, Vince, I think we gotta give them a choice. We actually have 2 agenda items left. We have about 10 minutes left, and we do a hard stop, top of the hour. I think I gotta give them a choice of which one they prefer.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Marketing around just solds, or what do we do with stale listings?
Ooh.
Sale listings, because
Yeah, I'm gonna go stale listings for 500, please.
All right. So the first thing we're gonna do with stale listings, we're gonna fire the agent because they crap.
What?
Just kidding. So obviously, you know, when a listing gets stale, the seller starts to freak out a little bit. You know, they start asking questions, and ultimately the blame falls on us, right? As their agent, we are the one that gets blamed for their house not selling. I mean, it's a multitude of probably reasons, but ultimately it's our fault, and it puts us at risk of getting fired when it's, you know, when it expires, right? So, you know, with a stale listing, what are we doing? What drives a stale listing? A lot of times it's probably condition of the home, price, maybe the market in that area, or the marketing that you're doing. So I think really when it comes to a stale listing, you have to have those hard conversations with your seller and say, hey, I told you we overpriced it, but you didn't listen. That conversation is really hard to have. It is really hard to tell somebody they didn't listen to you. So one of the things we do is, you know, we basically redo a CMA for them, and we go back and we review it with them and say, hey, you know, when I first presented to you 3 months ago, it was June here, and everything was selling for 10% over market value. Now we're in September. This is where the market shifted. We missed our opportunity. So I think it's really reviewing with them and showing them the data, because, you know, we all have that access to, you know, the MLS or whatever systems we're using to say, you know, in this area, homes this size sold for this much, but we're trying, you know, sold for 300,000. We're trying to sell yours for 350. You know, we really need to revisit this if we want to sell. So revisiting with our clients and having that hard conversation, and then reviewing feedback. One of the things when, you know, I show a home, or if I have a home that's listed, I always try to ask as many questions as possible to whoever's showing my home, to find out what is driving their client away from that property. And one of the questions I like is, if you were to buy this house today, what would you offer? If you as your client was going to buy my home today, what would they have offered as it stands? And that helps tell you what the market's going to offer, right? That helps tell you that if the home is, you know, if you have it listed at 320 and everyone comes back and says, hey, you know what, all the updates that still need to be done, we probably would have bought it for 275. Well, that is data you get to take back to your client. That's information you can take them and say, hey, we had 20 showings and everyone says it's outdated. They don't like the shag carpet from the 70s, or they don't like the vinyl flooring that's kind of chipping away and tore up. They would all offer $275. So I think, you know, using that data that we're given and sharing that with our clients is a huge way to stay on top of that. You know, I like that. What are some of the things you guys are doing when you have a stale listing? How do you approach your clients?
Well, one thing all you guys are thinking too, I'll add is make sure, and I used to have a sheet on this, and it's one of those things I'm redoing again, of course, because I'm always redoing something. But I have a log and I have tracked what we've done from a marketing standpoint. You know, when do we do the open house? What advertisements being run? What websites is it going out to? If we've done flyers, if we've done just listed postcards, logging that stuff, dated it, it's making it part of your listing, you know, your listing process, your listing checklist that you have for you. Because when you get stale listings, I'm going to go remember, because usually I tell the clients, hey, this is the ideal market for your home. Every home's got a different type of, you know, not all different, but you know what I mean? Like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch in a subdivision near a school is probably going to be pretty popular for what? Families. So who am I trying to target? You know, lake homes around here, unless I'm a moron, I'm going to digitally market it down into the Chicagoland area because it's close. And probably the joke is that 50% of the lake homes in southeastern Wisconsin are owned by Illinois residents. Where should I market? So if you can review where you've marketed, how you've marketed, that's kind of a cover your ass situation with your clients. It also shows that, hey, I know what I'm doing. So we need to review what we're doing and let it be open to them. Ask them, hey, do you feel like there's anywhere else that you've heard of or people you've heard of that would be attracted to your home? See if you can miss. Analyze it yourself, but that's one thing you should look at. Because again, location, condition, at the end of the day, what does it lead up to? So if you can truly identify that you've done pretty much all the right marketing, the conversation is price. And then what Vincent mentioned early on with then doing this is when we listed it to, this is what the market is now. That's good. That's a good way to show your client, like, unfortunately, the market shifted and here's the proof. So what else, what other things do you guys think you have to do or that you've heard of that's worked to help ease? That's a difficult conversation, right?
You know, to tie into that a little bit too, I think a lot of it has to do with communication from start to finish, right? If you have a listing, you know, on Monday morning, you're sending them, we do it every Monday. We do a seller report to all of our sellers, you know, how many clicks they had through MLS, how many clicks they had through our property boost. If there's any open houses, feedback that we gave them, or feedback that was given to us, we share that either through a phone call or a video message. That tells them that we're staying on top of it, and we're trying to share the information with them. I mean, if you don't communicate with your sellers, you know, if you go 2 weeks and you had 3 open houses or 2 open houses and, you know, a bunch of showings and you haven't given your seller feedback, I think, you know, I would, if I was a seller, I would feel like my agent is not being very responsive or staying on top of what is happening. So I think if you continuously give them that feedback, so if you had open houses and you say, hey, we had, you know, 10 people come through and they felt we were a little overpriced. If they're hearing that from the start, then when that time comes to actually make that price reduction, it's not going to be new. It's not going to be new to them. It's going to be old news because you've said it for the last 3 months or whatever it might be, or even 2 weeks. Like when you really want to do that price reduction is, you know, first couple weeks, if you don't, today's market, you don't have an offer, you're probably overpriced. So. Hey, you're muted.
You're
Yeah.
right, I am. Thank you. We got a minute left here, so I want to wrap up. So you guys, any other things you guys think of after the fact, just send it to us. We'll make sure to communicate it out as far as tips on how to handle stale listings. You know, one thing I think that wasn't mentioned on that really is also is when you know you list one high because more of a seller driven, don't be afraid to build in price adjustments right into your listing agreement. So that they're committing to saying on this such and such a date, this price, and I call it, that's one of the stale preventions is we're just gonna make this change right away. Okay, so it's a great way to handle it. So it's not even a conversation then. It's like, you don't have an offer accepted, I can go right in MLS and change that. Check your state laws on that in case somebody's different, but I know that's what we can do. So, all right. Again, any topics, follow-ups from this conversation? I'm sure we'll bring these topics back up again as we go. We want to try and hit as many stuff as possible, industry trends, whatever that. Please ask. Love to hear from you guys as far as what else to add. And obviously we're gonna continue to grow. We just grew by 1. Is that like a 10, like a 20% growth from last week? This is
It's
awesome.
amazing.
So we'll keep doing it. Okay.
Thank you so much. This was
All right.
great.
All right.
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
We'll see everybody next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.